everyone, and I hope you're having a good 2022 so far. My name is the Brendam Engine, and welcome to a new series of videos on this channel, a Thomas discussion. In this series, I will talk about elements from the TV series, the Railway series, the merchandise, the overall universe of Thomas, and pretty much anything you can think of relating to the Thomas franchise. In this first episode, I will talk about what I consider to be the worst Railway series story, and as you can tell by the title, it's Pop Special. So, why do I think it's the worst story? I need to give some context on the book it's from, Great Little Engines. Great Little Engines is the 29th book of the Railway series, and the third book written by Christopher Awdry. It's his first out of two books about the Skarloey Railway, the second one being New Little Engines, and the total amount of books that he wrote is much less compared to the amount of Skarloey Railway books that his father wrote. The main plot of Great Little Engines, and by main plot I mean it takes up just 2 out of the 4 stories in the book, is Sir Handel visiting the Tullochland Railway, which is an interesting idea, but not much is done with it. None of the stories actually take place on the Tullochland Railway, which is a missed opportunity if you ask me. The only one that sort of does is the final story, but that's told via a flashback. Anyway, Pop Special is the third story in this book, and it's completely disconnected from the rest of the stories. The plot of this story is that Duncan encounters a group of scouts who need a drink of soda, so Duncan goes to the refreshment lady shop to get some. However, there is no soda left in her shop, so Duncan has the idea of going to another shop, which luckily does have soda, and so Duncan delivers it to the scouts. The main problem, in my opinion, is that the conflict presented here isn't compelling or interesting. The story in a nutshell is, scouts need a drink, one shop doesn't have the drink, so Duncan just goes to another shop instead. The end. The conflict is simple and doesn't have any stakes. Let's compare this to another Skarloey Railway story, Gallant Old Engine. The conflict here is that Rheneas' valve gear jams, and the stakes are high. Not only does this mean that Rheneas might not be able to deliver the passengers to their destination, but there's also the risk of the Skarloey Railway closing down entirely. That factor alone adds a huge amount of tension to the story, because the fate of the entire railway is essentially up to Rheneas, and this factor makes the resolution all the more satisfying to the reader. Whereas in Pop Special, the resolution isn't very satisfying because what are the stakes? If the scouts don't get their drink, they just have to wait until later, and the railway isn't really affected at all. It's not nearly as exciting for that reason. Another issue I have with the story is the character usage. The main character here is Duncan, a character who, in all of his previous stories, complained and bickered, and his conflicts revolved around him learning not to complain so much. By comparison, in this story, he's helpful and earnest, and he doesn't complain once. You may call this character development, but I call it lazy writing, because we don't see Duncan's character being developed in this story specifically. Rather, it happens off-screen, or I guess in this case, since it's a Railway series book, it happens off-page? The fact that we don't see him develop much at all prior to the story makes him feel like a different character entirely. Feels like someone like Peter, Sam, or Rusty would be more fitting than Duncan. The only other characters in the story are Duncan's driver and the scouts, the latter of whom we never see before or after the story. My final issue is that the story is disconnected from the rest of the book. Besides the Tullochland Railway being mentioned once at the beginning, there is zero connection between this story and the rest of the stories in this book. As a result, the story is inconsequential, which makes it feel pointless, makes me wonder why it's here in the first place. And this is an issue that a lot of Christopher stories suffer from, in my opinion, and this certainly doesn't do this story specifically any favors. With all that said, are there any elements of Pop Special that I do enjoy? Well, I like the recurring appearance of the refreshment lady. It adds some continuity to the story, even if she doesn't add much to the actual plot. The illustrations are okay, and that's about all I can think of. There aren't many Railway series stories that I really dislike, even from Christopher Awdry's books, but Pop Special is plain, boring, and inconsequential, in my opinion. Anyway, let me know what you think about the story, and what your least favorite Railway series story is in the comments below. Feel free to also suggest future topics for Thomas discussions in the comments. I'll see you in a couple of weeks for another episode of A Thomas Discussion. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to see more like it, make sure to subscribe to the channel. Now that's all I have to say, so I hope you have an awesome rest of the day.